There we go. Welcome, everyone. Happy New Year. We're glad you're joining us here at NPAC for January of 2025. I don't know how we got here. That's just crazy. It's a busy, busy time. We're going to have a full meeting tonight, but I do want to take a time to do just a couple quick things. One is I always want to recognize, although you see me, it's actually the executive board that does the work on this team. And that's Susan Strank, who's our vice president and social media maven, and Andrea Pear, Melinda Jacobson, Diane Vincent, Nancy Rahauser, and Cheryl Bishop. Cheryl couldn't be here today. So I want to thank them. They certainly make my life easier, and they work hard for all of you. Even as we start this January meeting, I want to call out that we return to the first Wednesday of the month for February. So next month we'll meet on Wednesday, February 5th. And our guest will be State Representative Lauren Davis. She's with the 32nd District. And she is going to talk about the new legislative session and specifically about public safety legislation and how it impacts local law enforcement. So we're looking forward to that. Now, we do want to take note of a couple quick things. As you know, there have been some changes at the North Precinct. And so although we have the normal captain's update later in the agenda, I just want to quickly put a highlight on our new North Precinct captain, Captain George Davison. Welcome. And just so you know, Lori Agard is also here. I can't find her quickly. There she is. And I just want you to have their faces in case you're new, so that you can, oh, come on, there we go. Okay, there you go. So if you're new to the North Precinct Advisory Council, Lori will just be leaving us and George is just joining us, but they will be having a block of time at the end of this meeting. So there's your very quick intro and a quick welcome to Captain Davison. And now we are going to dive back into our regular, our regular agenda. Okay. If you are someone who has attended the North Precinct Advisory Council over the years, you will remember a longtime participant and attendee is our now Seattle City Attorney Ann Davison. And so she has been kind of come back and talk to her about what she's been doing in the last couple of years since she got elected. I want to call out that in the chat, again, put your questions for her and anyone else in the chat. We've dropped the agenda into the chat too, just in case you have any, oops, hang, let me get you unmuted. Technology's great. Oh, hang on, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this in a different order, Anne, pardon me. I'm going to ask you to unmute first. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
And now I'm going to spotlight you. Now, I trust that your communications fellow, Tim, in the background is going to be able to move into share desktop whenever he needs to. With that, I will stop talking and give you the floor. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me. What a great honor to kick off the new year. I heard a debate the other day of how long into January are we allowed to still say Happy New Year? And so I got one answer it was January 7th, and someone else said, well, it should be able to go well into January because maybe you haven't seen someone. So I really appreciate being the start of the 2025 year. It is strange to even say that year. If you're with me on the age calendar, I'm a little like, wow, it's a big change for some numbers. So I'm really appreciative to be here, and thank you also for all of you spending your evening hour to be on a Zoom call, whether you're on screen or off screen, just listening. It really is, you're choosing to spend your time to be civically engaged and make sure you're informed and asking questions, and checking on the people that you put in charge of decisions. That includes me. So you can help hold me accountable, right? You can understand what I'm doing, and if you have questions and don't understand something about what I'm trying to do, that's why I try to make myself accessible directly. My communications manager, Tim, accessible, as well as, Megan Westfall, our North Precinct liaison. Otherwise, if you're new to the North PAC, you just call her our public safety liaison. She's there to be accessible, an extension of me, so you don't have to come downtown necessarily if I'm not able to meet you at a community event, but she's available. As I like to say, we take the front desk on the road. I think it's part of my job is to come and talk about the data, talk about the information, so you can hear it from me firsthand. But she is there available when can't be everywhere. So please feel free to reach out to her with questions or just comments on how neighborhoods are going for you, because it is at the micro community level that I think is really where, for me, it's the most important. Your local government leaders are the ones who are really going to help make a difference for you in your day-to-day life. And especially in regards to public safety, which is the topic that most of you are here for. I would think the main reason why most of you are here for. So that to me is really important to bring that to all of you. If you've heard me before, that's one of my main things is to make sure, again, not just my accessibility personally, but to come and unpack the data so that you can understand what it is that I'm looking at for my decision making, and again, to hold myself accountable and to show transparency for what we're doing within the criminal division. I will note that it really is an unprecedented amount of data that I put forward from my office. It is cutting edge. It's considered cutting edge for prosecutor offices across the country to have data at all. A lot of prosecutors are reticent to do so, you can imagine, because there's going to be elements of the data that can be used against you because it looks like something's bad. And sometimes those are indicators that we need to know something's wrong, and that is an alarm going off, and we need to dig into that. Other times the data can just be misused and misinterpreted, but that's the way it is. I would rather make sure the data is available and people can use it than to withhold it because someone may choose to do something with it that is not what it's intended for. And so I just want to make sure we'll kind of go through some slides and talk through about what we're seeing. But Tim, do you want to start with our video? What we're going to start with, first of all, is just to kind of give you a big overview about what it is that I do and what the city attorney does. First, I'd like to just make sure everybody knows I'm the only elected city attorney in the state of Washington. All other city attorneys across our state are appointed, as are most of the city attorneys across the country. There's not a lot of positions that are elected like this one. So I think it really provides a great check and balance for the city, for its constituents and people who live here, because it lets you speak of how do you want prosecution happening for the misdemeanor criminal justice system here in the city of Seattle, whereas in other locations you don't get to have that say. You vote for it through your city council and mayor. But this is an independently elected position, and I think that it makes for a very smart way to handle public safety, in allowing us to have an additional person who's held accountable for what we're doing in that role. So I have a civil division and a criminal division. We're going to be talking about the criminal division here tonight, but Tim is going to share a video that we've made that Tim's helped develop and gives you some information, like a big overview about the office.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
I look muted. Okay, I just want to make sure somebody throw a flag if there's no sound. This is about a 2-minute long video, and I don't want it to roll and me not know that nobody can hear it. We have 2 backups, but here we go with the first one. Let me share my screen here and hit play.
Hi, I'm Seattle City Attorney Ann Davison. Whenever I have the opportunity to speak to residents of our great city, I often get asked about the work we do at the City Attorney's office. So I would like to take a couple of minutes to give you an overview about the office and what I do to represent the City of Seattle. I was elected by voters to my position in the November 2021 general election, and I began serving as your city attorney when I was inaugurated in January 2022. Seattle is the only Washington city where voters elect the city attorney. Everywhere else, it's an appointed position. And here in Seattle, the position of city attorney is one of a relatively few elected city positions. The other elected positions include the mayor, the 9 city council members, and the 7 Seattle Municipal Court judges. These are all
I can't
city
hear it.
attorneys and prosecutors, paralegals, advocates, and many more. My role has 2 primary areas of focus for the city: to help improve public safety as the misdemeanor prosecutor and to serve as the city's legal representative. As such, these roles are carried out by 2 divisions within the office: the criminal division and the civil division. Our criminal division prosecutes misdemeanors, gross misdemeanors, and traffic infractions in Seattle Municipal Court. To give you a reference point, there are 3 classifications of crimes: felonies, which are the highest level, and when they occur in Seattle, they are only prosecuted by the King County Prosecuting Attorney. My focus is on gross misdemeanors, which is the middle level and only eligible for a maximum sentence of 364 days, and misdemeanors, which are the lowest level crime and eligible for a maximum sentence of 90 days. Misdemeanor crime overall makes up 80% of all the crime that happens in Seattle. So our 43 prosecuting attorneys and 37 legal staff members in the division are very busy. Our civil division represents the city in lawsuits and also advises the mayor and other city officials as they develop programs, projects, policies, and legislation. Some 71 attorneys and 33 other legal staff members serve the city in our civil division. There is a 3rd division within the office, the Administration Division, which provides budgeting, accounting, human resources, clerical, and information technology to the City Attorney's Office. It's a great dedicated team of individuals who serve our city. In my next video, I'll talk a bit more in depth about our 2 main divisions so you can get a good overview of the work our team does every day for the people of Seattle. In the meantime, if you would like any additional information, you can always visit our website at seattle.gov/cityattorney. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to visiting with you again soon.
Tell you, there's nothing more strange than watching a video of yourself while you're on with other people. So
Tim, do you need to be able to run slides still, or are you?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yeah, as soon as Ann's ready, I can switch over and pull up the few slides in the deck. And
That's
I'm
fine.
ready to go for that, but I know she's gonna speak a bit before we get to the slides.
That's great. Okay.
Thank you.
So that gives you a good overview. I was really thought it was great. Tim put together that video for us to provide for people, and I've had people in our office have sent it to their family members who live, outside the city or wherever, to just give them information about what it is that their job is like here, what they're doing in the city attorney's office. And so I think that it's really informative, giving people a general overview about what I'm doing in this role, because a lot of my conversation and community is about public safety, but we do have a whole nother side of the house, as we call it, in the civil division, where we are the legal advisors to the entire city and all the city departments, and represents the city in litigation. And so it's a very unique and interesting job, and has a lot of facets, and I greatly enjoy it, and I'm very honored to serve in this role. And so I really do just appreciate it. But typically what I'm speaking about is on the public safety side. So we'll get going with the slides that go through some of the data that I was talking about earlier, about the amount of data that we've been able to bring to the public, and then what does that tell us is happening here in the city of Seattle. I look at it from kind of the largest view we can, and try to look at trends of what are we seeing where and what locations, so that we can then craft strategies to be responsive to the criminal activity that's going on. Of course, the dream would be that people would just choose to not harm one another and follow the laws, and then we wouldn't need to have all these things. But until that day, we have to be diligent and ready to go for that. And so we'll get going on the slides, Tim, when you're ready. Okay, so we have, let me get my screen. I'm used to having multiple screens when I'm in the office. And so now I'm like, I have one, and it makes for a little bit different type of location for me to have my own notes. Let me get up here. So we have our information that tells us what we've been doing. So we did do the data mining that for as far back as we could. Again, I wanted to have a good perspective of what has been the trends going on in our city from a criminal activity view. So again, we can know what has been the message as far as enforcement to those who seek to come here or who are here and seek to do criminal activity. So here you can see the trends that have been going on through the referrals. And I talk about a referral, that's what we call what we get from the Seattle Police Department. And if you've heard me talk before, I apologize to repeat myself, but I do liken it to a track relay team where we are the second leg of that relay team and the police officers are the first leg of that. So unless and until I get a police referral, then there's nothing that I can do to impact that incident that occurred. And so when you combine all those together, when I get those referrals, that is the pocket of criminal activity that I can influence based upon the evidence that we see and our within our prosecutorial discretion as to whether or not we think we should make charges. But this gives you the data that we get as far as what are the referrals we get. We are getting consistently around 11,000 referrals a year. And this is a significant thing to me because we all know we have a low number of officers, but that means that they are doing diligent work because even with that lower number, we're still seeing that same general number of referrals over. But this gives us a referral by case. Domestic violence, we track our non-traffic, non-DV, which is our general crime. So that's assault and theft and trespass and things like that. And then our criminal traffic numbers. So it gives you kind of an overview about what has been happening within the microcosm we call Seattle over the past many years, going back through 2019. And you can see that the referrals by case type, we can see them dwindling down. And as we said in the slides, that misdemeanor crime makes up 80% of the criminal activity that occurs. So when my focus is about recentering victims in the public safety conversation, sadly, if someone is going to be a victim of a crime, or if you are likely to be the victim of a crime, you're likely to be the victim of a misdemeanor crime. And so that's why I think my role is utterly important, because that's where most of the crime victims are for misdemeanor criminal activity. You can see here in the heat map, this is where what's happening in your neighborhoods, right? Wherever you are. Again, everybody knows within the North Precinct area, the largest segment of our city and our officers that serve, thankfully, in the occupation of law enforcement up there, have a vast geographical area to cover. And so we can see the hot spots of where those are. And again, that's where we try to see where can we be instrumental and strategic, and what can I do even from a creative stance of, even though I'm only step 2 in that relay race, right? What can I do to most impact positively public safety, which is why we've developed, and proposed the legislation that passed earlier. I was gonna say earlier this year, but that would be last year now, in the form of the soda and the soap, with those passing 8-1. The first of the public safety legislation that's been around for a while. It's really instrumental. I think hopefully it will in the next year or so we start to see some results on that. Then we have domestic violence referrals, and those are important because to me, what is important, if you've ever spoken to somebody who works in the area of domestic violence, whether that be as a victim advocate or some type of a caseworker or a prosecutor, what we know from domestic violence is that it really is one of the leading factors as to whether somebody is a future victim or a criminal actor. Just exposure to domestic violence for a minor, that means just even witnessing around them, it increases the likelihood that they are either going to be a victim in the future or an aggressor in the future. And so to me, it really is the root cause of where we should be focused on. How can we disrupt generational violence that's happening? Because when it happens in domestic violence, it eventually pours out into community violence. So this is where we really make, as a society, the most inroads on reducing generational, learned violence after time over time. And so again, focusing on minors is an area that within the Domestic Violence Prevention Council, which is a branch of government with city council and in the executive departments and me are focusing on what can we do that would really be instrumental in this area. And right now we are focused on the areas, again, as minor exposure to domestic violence, and can we provide quick access to therapy for those young minds so that we can unpack those power dynamics and it doesn't result in future community violence. So here, let me just kind of take a pause on here because I may be going off script. Sometimes when I have our slides, I've got my notes of what we're supposed to do. And then sometimes I just really like to talk about what's currently been going on or what I've been talking with people about lately as we go through. So I just want to make sure that I've gone through everything that we've wanted to do within domestic violence, but I think I have. So there on our drug use and possession, sadly, we know that this has been an area that has been a problem for the city for too long, in my opinion. I think we could have been making some movement earlier, but we are on the move and have some things in place that we can hopefully see some traction on. These are our numbers that we're keeping track of. It's again, when we made the drug use law as a state, it changed the classification of the crime from the felony level down to the gross misdemeanor level. And again, that moves it from offices. It moves it from the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. That was where they handled it. And now it moves it into my area, into all the municipal prosecutors where the misdemeanors are handled. The King County prosecutor handles the unincorporated areas of King County for misdemeanor activity, but within municipalities, of which in King County, there's 39 municipalities, that means that all of the drug use and possession cases are now moved out of King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office and into 39 municipal attorneys' criminal divisions across the county. So we have to I talk about it in all again, because I'm the only elected city attorney. So you're not going to hear about it from probably from other city prosecutors, but criminal activity does not stay within the confines, of one geographical line. So I think it's important to be cognizant of what our municipal neighbors are also dealing with, because they don't have maybe the same technology or the same types of responses, but criminal activity goes across geographical and jurisdictional lines. And so we are all having to build out what happens now for drug use and possession, because those alternative courts and those direct lines to treatment all was built out in the felony level. And so now that all needs to get built out at the misdemeanor level. And so on the one hand, it's good that we have the law, but on the other hand, it's here and the system for what happens after that is not built out. And so that's a sad after effect of having lowered that classification, in that the treatment access is not necessarily readily available like it is in felony level. But here's our numbers of where we are getting the referrals. And then again, we keep track of what we do internally and what we're waiting on. And so we're waiting the toxicology reports. We have some activity where we've gotten many referrals recently. So those are under review. And then there's 147 where we didn't think we had enough evidence to go ahead and prosecute on that. On the other side, it shows we are showing where we are diverting, and then some that have been offered the opportunity to participate in the law enforcement assisted diversion. And then we're wanting to make sure that we can track whether or not people are participating in that. And then my data person has created this category where it's complicated, just because some of this is hard to track because it's not our data, right? Like LEAD is a nonprofit outside agency. So we're trying to get the best information we can from there. But the data that is specifically within the city, or especially specifically within my office, those numbers we can have with the best accuracy because we own that data and we know what's going on. So we'll go on to the next slide there. And so again, when we talked early at the start, I started in January of 2022, and you may recall that I had inherited a nearly 5,000 criminal case backlog, and we handled that. And one of the first things I did with that was to create a close in time filing policy in February of 2022 to stop adding to that backlog. And then we started to go through the data of the cases of what did we have, and from that, and what I had talked about prior to being able to serve in this role was focusing on people who are engaged in repeat frequent criminal activity. And so we started to use the data to really understand where is the place where we can, again, strategically use our resources to focus on the few people that are causing the highest amount of problems for the community. And so we launched the High Utilizer Initiative in March of 2022. And so over the time since then, we have checked to see people who meet the certain criteria that we have used for the initiative, and monitor their criminal activity. And then when no longer they are on that, where we're checking things, we are checking to see whether we see it again, whether it's recidivism. And so right now we have 109 people who are matching the criteria, where it's 12 referrals in the last 5 years and at least 1 referral in the past 8 months. That's our general start. We exclude domestic violence because we have a different way of reviewing those cases with our special unit for domestic violence, and we exclude DUI because, again, that has different issues where we'll have a significant backlog at the state toxicology lab. So those are not things we can move on in a frequent way. But within the other crimes, we are able to then look at that and see where can we be focused on that. And it is an aid for our police officer partners, because then when they are given the list that, from our view, of people we are seeing a lot of referrals from, most of the time those officers are familiar with people because they're the ones that they hear about from community members, or they've interacted with themselves. And so it's a helpful thing. It also was a helpful thing because prior to the booking restrictions being removed from the King County Jail, this was the first way that we got booking restrictions lessened, was from the High Utilizer Initiative. And those, the list of people during each quarter when we reviewed, those people were allowed to be booked by King County Jail. So that was the first time that we were seeing those restrictions lessened by King County. And now, just this past November, all of the booking restrictions for the city of Seattle for misdemeanor booking have been removed, which in my opinion had been a significant impediment to improvement of public safety. So now we have that, and that's been a great thing. And so this gives us a view, again, because of our data, we can do it by precinct. You can see you guys in Q1. I'm not sure if I actually know what this one is here. This is the number of people, 41 people within your area are currently on our High Utilizer Initiative focus. And so you're not the highest, the West is the highest, but you're second highest. But again, for your large geographical size, that may seem like a lot of people to you, or may seem like not very many. But really, 41 people are causing a lot of problems up in the north end for this community. And again, part of the numbers that are significant is when we launched the initiative, we knew that the first 118 people we started with were responsible for over 3,500 police referrals. And so again, I think it was 118 people was our first number, responsible for over 3,500 referrals. That's a lot of referral, and a referral could have 1 crime or 5 crimes. So we don't measure it by number of crimes because we don't know what we will end up charging, but we just do it based on an actual police report in the name of a referral is how we call them. And so what we've been able to forecast by looking at the what the people were doing prior to the High Utilizer Initiative, and then at the exit of when they were no longer in that initiative part, we can see a reduction of referrals because of our action in this initiative over the time span since we started it, of a reduction of 2,800 referrals is what our forecast. We have our police officers are having to see and process and send over 2,800 less referrals over the past approximate 3 years. So to me, that was, we've lessened their load. That in a way that's measurable, right? And so, and that hopefully then that's translated to there is less criminal activity from those individuals because we don't see those referrals again. We see very little referrals from them after they're no longer in the initiative part. So we think it's a great continuation. I will highlight that this was the launch of the great communication that is still ongoing between my office and the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Prior to my being the city attorney, I learned sadly that there was no communication going on from the city attorney's office to the King County Prosecuting Attorney's office. And again, when there's a felony prosecutor and a misdemeanor prosecutor that are separate, but they're covering the same geographical area and there's no communication, there's not going to be a positive impact on public safety. So I was very thankful for King County Prosecutor Lisa Mannion's continuation of that early start in my first year. And this has continued to be a point where there's collaborative work, cross-jurisdictional lines with the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. So we can, because again, the people they're going wherever they want to, to do the criminal activity. And if we are not organized on this side of the line, they're going to be, their organization on the other side of the line, of the law is benefiting them. And so we have to be even more organized on this side of the line, on this side of the law, right? And when it's just talking to another office in a different jurisdiction that costs us nothing, the lack of talking costs us all in the form of less improved public safety. And so I'm very thankful to have that. And that again was established and has been maintained through the High Utilizer Initiative. One, because we refresh our data every quarter. We look at that. We look at it with police. We look at it with the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office and with my office. So we are actively staying with the data, whereas these types of programs are not new, but what is making this one new is that it's paired with data, it's repeatedly paired with data, and it's analyzed and it's assessed as to what is the good use of the program. And if it's not, then we don't need to pursue it. But it clearly is when we can forecast that we've reduced the number of referrals and it is maintained an ongoing working collaboration with another prosecutor. And again, to me, that's invaluable when the goal is to do everything we can to improve public safety. There's zero excuse. You should let any of your elected people, whatever their role, that they're not working together with other electeds to improve public safety, because talk doesn't cost us anything, and it's the best way we can really improve. I will leave it at that because at some point I should stop talking, and I'm not sure if Tim, if he put the slides down because it was his cue to me that I needed to stop, or if that was the end of our slides. So maybe we'll move on and see if there's questions or anything after that.
Sure. I've unmuted Tim or asked him to if he has any comments for you. In the meantime, I can start going through questions in the chat if you like.
Sure.
Okay, let's see what we've got. Initial question, what has been your biggest challenge during your first several years as city attorney?
I'm going to put it on myself. It's my own impatience. That really is the biggest struggle I have. I am a workhorse, and I'm I like to manage big logistical organizational things. My background is, if you recall if you've heard me in any of my previous times, I worked at the Seattle Supersonics and basketball operations, and I handled all the goings and comings of the team and all the things. And I really found that I really do enjoy larger logistical challenging things, and I want to get stuff done and I want to be really efficient. So coming into government as a newcomer to government, it doesn't move at the pace I'd like it to go. And I don't really think there's a great reason why we aren't moving at a faster pace. And so that really has been the biggest challenge, is either for me to get a little bit more patient and figure out how to get things moving, or how to get things moving faster. So I'm trying to do between those two, a little bit of self-discipline, but also, putting the fire under I think where it needs to go, so I can get things. I don't think we should be having to be as patient as we have been sometimes.
Let's see, next question. How is the no trespassing and drug ordinance working in our small business districts?
I'm going to assume that's the SOTA, the stay out of drug area ones, is what I'm going to assume that questions are related to. And so if you've heard me speak on it, I apologize to repeat myself, but if you haven't, that's why I think it's important. And I'm going to need Tim to maybe pull up the information that I had readily when we were going through all the education pieces on the SOTA. But in the past, the SOTA areas were done. They were done just on a one-by-one, case-by-case basis, prosecutor asking a judge and maybe issued. And there were so many of them, it covered about 40% of our 83 square miles of our city. And the SOTA zones that I proposed and then that City Council added to, even with their additions, we are still less than 0.25% of the 83 square miles of our city. So it is a vastly different SOTA tool for law enforcement. Again, 40% of our city, that is a large amount. It's unwieldy and it's probably very difficult for police to do anything about. Now we have very strategic specific areas, again, to try to exclude services, treatment locations, permanent supportive housing, but known problematic places for the city. And it's going to be a process before we can really give people a good answer as to how well is it working. But I think it was the absolute right thing to do, because what it did show is there's, first of all, two branches of government were very much, well, all branches of government wanted it, right? It was voted 8-1 and the mayor signed the thing. So, and I proposed them. So it shows for the constituents, there's coordination and effort that's focused on this. We hear you and we're trying to do it, and there's joint efforts. Instead of, as I said before, it was just one prosecutor asking a judge. Now it's legislation. And not only is it legislation, but it's made a new crime in the form of, if a SOTA order is issued and someone has been told you're not supposed to go back to this one specific area, and they go back and violate that order, then that is a new crime of which the evidence would be able to be proven, most likely would be able to be proven easier than the underlying drug law, where we have to get the substance tested. So it will take a while as we get the drug use and possession referrals for us to then have those cases, and then we seek those conditions of release, or it might be post-conviction, but most of the time we're going to be requesting it as a condition of release, because the presumption is release for a person. That's how the law is, and we are then advocating for even with the release, there's this restriction to not go back in this area. We have gotten, I think, no more than 2. I know we've gotten 1. But that's the low number where we're at, where we've gotten at least 1 SOTA order issued, which means one person has been issued a condition of release that you should not go back into this one specific SOTA zone. So that's what I'm saying is, when I get those referrals, it's funneling down. There's criminal activity, there's reported criminal activity, and then it becomes referred criminal activity, right? That comes over to me. And then what can I do with it? So by the time I get it, I've got a very smaller amount of what the activity is that's going on, because some of it never gets reported, some of it never is able to get processed and referred to me. And so then we're down to this piece. So that's where I'm at the moment. And so we will continue to give the numbers and track the data. But again, as the second in line of that track relay team, the law is there, and I'm thankful to City Council for supporting this so much. But I cannot do much on the action part until I get those referrals from the police, of which, again, we're trying to be helpful to the numbers of officers that we do have by providing this, so that we can be instrumental in improving these areas, the entrenched known drug markets, right? Where the dealers know this is where I can go and easily sell with zero effort. We want to make it hard. We want to make it a disruption. We want it to be difficult for them to continue to choose to do this, to make money off selling substances that only harm people's health and well-being, and that's a significant thing. So that's where we're at, honestly, for it. And again, that's why I give the numbers. It's not the numbers that I would like, but I don't direct the police. But I'm a very strong supporter of people, again, who choose to serve in that occupation. I want to help make their job something that they can do. You know, we obviously we have high standards for our expectations for our police officers, and it's a high task for them to do. but I stand at the ready in that second step for when I get those referrals to go ahead and do my part to back up their work when the evidence supports that something should be charged, or we have alternatives and diversions, but we have the spectrum for what we can do. So that's the numbers, and I'll keep giving the numbers, right? So the public can understand this is what I'm getting, and I can't do more, until I get the numbers, and I can't tell you the answer for how do I get more of those things, but I can just at least tell you these are the numbers that I have, and that I'm ready to handle those when we get them.
Okay, we have only
Long
got
answer.
yeah, we've only got about 5 minutes left, so I'm scrolling through the chat. We have a number that have asked about various things on data, and I think you kind of answered data questions as you went through your presentation. And the data that you're providing is from your office. That was one question about the source. So yes, it's from your office. And let's see, a couple other things. Let's see. Trying to make sure we get kind of a new one.
I
Okay,
just want to
what
say
does
thank Councilmember Moore. I did see she was on, so thanks for attending. I think that's terrific.
so somebody asked, what does it mean to exit the HUI program? Are these folks in jail? Are the cases resolved, or have they moved out of the city?
Well, we would know if they are in custody, that, locally, we would be able to know that. If they've moved away, then obviously we don't know. What we do track is, do we see referrals from them again? And that will go on continuously, right? We'll be able to see, did we get somebody who was on the first list of the HUI? And how long has it been since, because we're tracking to see, did we know they were in custody and now are they out? They're right back at it. And we're just not seeing that. And so we don't necessarily know the resolution to that. I don't control, what happens, post, if there's a conviction. I don't even control what happens post that. I think there needs to be a lot of access to treatment in custody. I think we need to, again, as I said, in the drug court, drugs moving from felony to misdemeanor. I think there needs to be a lot of investment. This would be at the state level for misdemeanor reentry, and that to be really well mapped out as it is in the felony level, because this is where we really do deal with, again, criminal activity to make sure we deter people once and for all, and we don't want them back in the criminal justice system. This is where we should be investing, but we've built everything out at the felony level. So then we built a system that is wait until and unless there's a felony, then we're going to put all of the resources we have and hope we stop somebody. But I think we should have and can still prioritize it also at the misdemeanor level so we don't see the felony level activity. But that's what we know for the end of HUI is we don't always know where they end up. We just know whether or not we see them again.
So I'm going to give you just one more. It's actually from Councilmember Moore, and you've only got 2 minutes. Do you have any thoughts about how to improve the drug ordinance?
The underlying drug ordinance. Well, I think my initial proposal was just to adopt the RCW as is, just because then we're like every other jurisdiction. And I guess I'm not a big fan of Seattle having its own special way. I think I would like us to show we're good neighbors and do it sometimes the way not everybody needs to copy us. Other people have good ideas too. That's just my own personal opinion about just generally that. But again, for me, the place that I don't control, but I think I see so direly as needed is post custody at the misdemeanor level, which often with drug use is going to be make it more problematic. What's happening with somebody? And there just really is not coordination at the exit point. I went up and toured Marysville, and they have a very great way of handling it from start to finish to making sure someone is going somewhere directly. If they choose to do treatment, they can end their custody time sooner and they go directly into treatment. And if they don't want to do treatment, they stay in custody for the days that are required up there. So it's a really interesting model. And I think they're getting a lot of traction on their treatment because people are like, treatment or jail, treatment or jail. I think I'm going to go to treatment. And then you actually have them go into treatment. And if they don't want to do it, that's okay. Then they're waiting in jail. we just want to encourage that, and I just don't think that's built out here. I don't know why, and I think it should have been years before I was here, because I think that's what I heard from a lot of people. But in any event, we're here, and I'd say, Councilmember Moore, let's build it out and and get people in.
Great. Well, thank you very much. We very much appreciate your time. There are a variety of questions. We're going to go ahead. The board will look through the questions that remain in the chat. There's a variety. Some are comments, and I think some did get answered as you spoke. But I think we'll forward those to you, and we can maybe get some answers if there's a few that you could help with, and then we can share those when we send out our minutes, if that works for you.
Absolutely. And again, as I said, Megan is there. You can send her questions, or she can come back, and we're happy to convey those. Thank you again for having me and listening to me for so long. I appreciate such a long time to talk to everybody, and have a safe evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I will just, actually, I should have called that out. Megan Westfall, who normally has a spot on the agenda, who is stepped back tonight. Thank you, Megan. Is our regular. And I do want to say how very much we appreciate the support that is provided both by her, but also by your office, and just letting us have someone attend regularly. It's really helpful. She's great, and we truly appreciate it. So thank you both very much. Thank you. Okay, next up is Casey, and I am going to find him.
He's just logging in.
Yes, I saw that. He kind of has come and gone. Casey McNearthney. Oh, the screen bounces around. Spotlight. Casey, you can see if you can unmute yourself. Oh, hang on. Let me just do one quick thing first. Yep, you should unmute yourself. Does it work? No. Okay, hang on a second. It seems to not like to do that when I have you in the spotlight. So let me do it this way. Now I'll do that. Now unmute. Great. Welcome, Casey. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I was just switching back and forth between my phone and the computer here. This is Murphy's Law. The upstairs bathroom just at about 7 o'clock decided to flood into the kitchen. So I promise I wasn't trying to ignore any of that. I was just trying to minimize the water damage. But it's actually kind of nice to have this meeting as a break, because I don't have to deal with it for 15, 20 minutes, you know? It's just gonna pretend it didn't happen. But thanks everybody, and really echoing what the city attorney said. You know, there's such great partnership from her office and with Megan too, and with so many people behind the scenes in that office. We are really fortunate to have her, and such great communication and really proactive work. It's been a really real game changer, and I think you can see the differences in the city. In terms of what the King County Prosecutor's Office is doing for you lately, one of the big things that we worked on and have some great support from the City Attorney's Office and the Mayor's Office and SPD is the graffiti effort. There were 16 defendants who were charged with 35 cases, and there's more coming. This is not going to be a one-time thing, and we've received a lot of positive feedback from that, from folks, particularly small business owners and business owners who have been hammered and are at the point where their insurance is not funding their recuperation costs because they've had so many claims, and that's a frustrating spot for them to be at. We don't want people to leave the city or the county, and so that's part of what led to that effort, and just trying to address that. A little bit of news in terms of gun violence. We looked, so every time there's a homicide or a near homicide, if it looks like somebody might die, there's a team of senior deputy prosecutors who go out on that call. Last year there was 165 call outs. This year in 2024 there were 144. So it's down a little bit. It's not quite where it was pre-pandemic, where we'd like it to be, but it's nice to see that the numbers are slowly going in the right direction. When you look at shots fired, when you look at non-fatal shootings, and when you look at fatal shootings, all three are slightly down. Also, when you look at domestic violence homicides, that number peaked in, I think it was 2022, where there were 32 domestic violence related homicides. That number last year was down to 15, and it averages in a county of about 2.3 million, somewhere between 10 and 20 each year. So that's, we still want it to be lower, but that's nice to see that those numbers are coming down. There's been some neighbors that have emailed about concerns around Sandpoint and Magnuson Park. I'm happy to share the notes on those individual cases. I share those with Katie too. And, this really is an example of what Lisa Mannion, as the county prosecutor, wants us to do. Is, she has said over and over, when you have neighbors who have concerns, even if they want individual answers for each case, make sure to provide those. And so, we can share those individual cases, and for any neighborhood, that is going to be the case, where if you have questions and wonder what's going on, what have you done, what are you doing, what will you do, and why were those decisions made one way or the other, we're happy to answer those questions. Two other notes on the budget on here. One is the budget, and also being back to work. The budget process, the county's in a tough budget spot, like most counties in the state and most cities. The prosecutor's office didn't get all that we were looking for, and that's not a knock on the council members. They've got a pretty tough job to try to figure that out, and the executive too. But we really need those resources, and just like Seattle police need detectives to do the follow-up work when there's a 911 call, it's got to go to a detective before it gets referred either to the city attorney's office or to the King County prosecutor's office. We also need those deputies and those senior deputies and the resources to file those cases. And so we're going to keep advocating for that. There's also the upcoming session in Olympia, where there's a whole list of the things that we're trying to get lawmakers to fix and to work on down there. And there's been some great conversations. One is around juvenile gun cases, where if you're a juvenile and you're caught with a gun, it takes the 5th conviction before you go to the state level juvenile rehabilitation. And before that, it's 0 to 30 days of local sanctions, which is usually ends up as a credit for time served from the courts. And what we're seeing is really serious, dangerous crimes. And so trying to fix that to make it the 2nd or 3rd opportunity. And it'll probably end up being the 3rd, hopefully, but that's still got to go before lawmakers. But showing the seriousness of what we're seeing with juvenile crime and trying to address it before more people are hurt is big there. And one note on back to work, not all county offices are at the full return to work stage, but what we're doing is modeling what the city of Seattle under Bruce Harrell has done to say, hey, at minimum 3 times a week, if you're in the first 2 years of your time in the office, 5 days a week, and most people on the criminal side are there at least that much anyway. So that's good news. That should be hopefully reassuring to some folks. I see there's some questions here. The term held accountable has to be more precise. Okay. In my opinion, the graffiti vandals don't have to pay in full for the damage they've caused, and they are not, in my view, being held accountable. Well, here's the 2 spots, and I hear you on that. There's 2 different ways to look at that. One is we file the cases and ask for restitution, and the court can order that, or the court cannot. It's up to judges what amount of restitution they set. And that lien on your credit can hold on for a long time. The other part of it is jail time. And I think a lot of people want to say, hey, you vandalize businesses, you should go to jail for long term. And the reality is what state lawmakers have said is no. And judges and prosecutors have to follow what state lawmakers set as the standard guidelines. And that is really frustrating for people to hear. When you have even a felony malicious mischief case in the 1st or 2nd degree, which are the types of cases that we filed along with burglary, the range for most of those people under what state lawmakers have set is somewhere between 2 and 6 or 9 months. And a lot of people would say that doesn't feel like enough when you when you cause several thousands of dollars worth of damage. And I hear what you mean on the accountability there. What prosecutors can do is file these cases, ask the court for restitution, and ask for what we can under the sentencing guidelines. I'm sure that's going to be insufficient for a lot of people who say that's not enough. We don't like that. And I hear you on that. It's what we can do, and we can advocate to state lawmakers to say, hey, this, when you cause a huge amount of damage, maybe there needs to be more, and there probably does, but that's something that is a larger issue than just one person saying it. Can you send out data points in support of second and third offenses for juvenile gun offenses? Yeah. Most of us support this effort and can add our voices to advocate for change. Absolutely, Larry. David Hackney is works down Olympia. He's a great rep, and he's been really receptive and helpful for us. And so we've had some great meetings with him. I'll share that information with this whole group when we have those additional details. It's likely that that he'll come forward with it with something that's really helpful.
Casey, there was another question a little higher up that bounced down. Someone asked, did I hear correctly that juveniles aren't sent to juvenile detention until after the 5th offense?
Yeah. And that's not, a lot of people think that's prosecutors just being, oh, you liberal prosecutors, you don't care about juvenile crime. That's not it at all. It's actually the prosecutor's office who say there needs to be clear penalties here because they're a danger to themselves and to others. It's what it is say I'm 14 and I'm caught with a gun and illegally possessed gun that I can't have as a 14-year-old. The first time that I'm caught and convicted, it's 0 to 30 days of local sanctions. And that's what state lawmakers across the state have said. I get caught with a second gun, a second incident, a second conviction, same thing. Third conviction, same thing, 0 to 30 days. Fourth conviction, the same thing, 0 to 30 days. It's the 5th time where you go to the state rehabilitation process. And a lot of people say, 4 or 5 guns, that's a lot. And it is. And, when we see young minds using guns illegally, it leads to a number of bad decisions.
Yeah. So Casey, we're at time, but I do want to call out that as a reminder, we have Lauren Davis coming next month, state representative from the 32nd district, to talk about pending legislation on public safety. And so I might reach out to you to get some updates about what your office is looking at as suggested improvements.
Yeah, sounds great. And I'm sure that she's doing great work too. Yeah,
Great.
Would love to do that.
Okay, thank you for the update. Happy New Year. We appreciate your time. Go
Good to see everybody.
fix that sink.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be painful.
Bye-bye. Okay, so I am going to highlight a couple of folks here. First, I'm going to ask them to unmute. Lori Agard, would you unmute? And hang on. George Davison, would you unmute? You do that first, then it seems to work. Lori, did you unmute? I'm trying to.
Oh, there we go. Now it worked.
Excellent. I don't know what's going on because I have it set to let you be spotlighted. So hang on one second. We have a little transition here. And there we go. So before we do the official captain's update, one of the things that we wanted to do was just to recognize you, Lori Agard, for all of the great work you've done. And we have written a letter to you, which we'll send right after this meeting and copy Chief Farrar. And I'm just going to read it so folks can hear what the executive board decided we would like to make sure you know. The Executive Council of the North Precinct Advisory Council congratulates you on your promotion to Acting Assistant Chief for Professional Standards within the Seattle Police Department. Your promotion is well deserved. We deeply appreciate the skilled and compassionate leadership you have demonstrated at SPD North Precinct over these past several years. Your commitment to effective communication between the North Precinct and the diverse communities in North Seattle has been key to impacting a number of very difficult situations. We are particularly impressed by your willingness to be a visible presence, to listen closely to community concerns, and to bring both ideas and key partners to the table to talk about solutions. In short, you consistently and personally showed up for NPAC meetings, at community events, in responding to questions and emails. You created a personal, positive relationship with the North Seattle community, and that allows us all to talk and work together, even through very difficult conversations. Policing in Seattle is difficult at best, given the understaffing in the department and the increasingly complex societal issues of drugs, gun violence, homelessness, and domestic abuse, to name a few. Given these complexities and the day-to-day challenges of being a police officer, we also thank you for your excellent leadership and support for your officers and staff. You are quick to give credit to their work and to highlight their positive results and successes. We will miss you, but we wish you continued success in your new role. And again, congratulations. So thank you.
Wow. Yeah, wow. Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. You know, the feedback from the community and the people I work with means the world to me. So thank you very much. That's much appreciated. And I'm going to miss all you guys. And I love the North Precinct. And I'm going to still be talking to George and telling him what to do. No, just joking. But yeah, or Captain Davison, sorry. But no, we talk and, you know, and he gives me advice, I give him advice, and we're going to stay in touch. And he's going to be a great captain for the North Precinct. But thank you very much. That's the letter's much appreciated. Very nice.
So I'm going to remove your spotlight and give it to the new Captain Davison, but I'm going to ask you to stay unmuted so that you can pitch in if you need. Welcome, Captain Davison. We're very happy to meet you. Welcome to the North Precinct. We're excited to work with you. And this is your spotlight. You get to start telling us what all's going on at the North Precinct this month.
Well, first off, I'll just introduce myself since I'm sure nobody here knows who I am. I'm George Davison. I've been with the Seattle Police Department for over 24 years, going on my 25th year now. I've spent 11 years in patrol, 12 years in patrol, 11 years, something like that. I was a burglary theft detective up here for 3 years, trying to impact some of the property crimes that were going on. I also did a year in patrol up here as well. I got promoted to sergeant and went down to the West Precinct for about roughly a year, about 8 months. And then went over to the force investigation team, and I was there for 6 years. So investigating the high levels of force as well as officer involved shootings. And then from there, I got promoted as a lieutenant, went over to policy, audit policy and research. I was there for about a year and a half, and then they promoted me in spot. And then I became the captain of the audit policy and research section. After that, they moved me to the firearms unit in the training division of the department. And then as of 8 days ago, became the captain of the North Precinct. So needless to say, I've had plenty of time to figure everything out with the North Precinct in the first 8 days here. But I will tell you that my calendar requests have filled up very, very quickly. So I have been given the stats, but my understanding is with the stats for the North Precinct, they're generally a month, but our statisticians have pulled up the year-to-date figures for the North Precinct. So while I'll be able to talk about what they currently are or what they finished year-end, I'm not as fluent on everything at this time in the precinct that I believe that Chief Agard is. And so she has kindly volunteered to stay on the call and assist with any kind of question and answer. So with that, I believe, did everybody get the stats that were here?
I did not hand them out. We typically send them after if they're not going to be displayed. It's hard. As you can see, technology, we don't want to move between screens, but they'll get it shortly. Okay.
So for year to date, the overall crime in the North Precinct was down 1%. That's a culmination of all the different crimes that they take stats for. Violent crimes were up 6%. Again, this is year to date. Shots fired were up 13%, and property crime was down 2%, with burglary being down 4% and motor vehicle theft down 14%. So those are specific to the North Precinct. Breaking that down further, there was a drop of homicides by 50%. In 2023, it was 18, and it's down to 9 in 2024. Robbery is fairly consistent. It's up a little bit, meaning 5%. Aggravated assaults up 4%, and the totals for that is regarding violent crime is up 6% in the North Precinct. Property crimes, the grand total for everything being on average is down 1% overall, including arson, burglary, larceny, motor theft. So those are the stats that I have at this time. Also, one other stat that I can note is the shootings and shots fired, which for 2023 were 157 and 2024 177. So there's a 13% change in that. So with that, that's what I have at this point in time. Again, I'll do my best to answer any questions, but I'm guessing that Chief Agard will have a lot more insight into things than I do at this point in time. So.
That's okay. You're brand new. You get a pass for it. I am going to do one thing as we kick off the question period. I think Councilmember Kathy Moore, who I'm going to locate, had something that she would like to. First, I'm going to ask you, Kathy, to unmute. You can. Can you unmute?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to add you in.
Okay.
I think you had something you wanted to get in here quickly.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I just also wanted to express my deep appreciation for the incredible relationship that I've had with Captain Agard. I wanted to echo the remarks of Councilmember Rivera that you've just been such an incredible partner, truly passionate and compassionate, and always available. And I have felt that we've been able to, things have not always been so smooth between council and law enforcement, and I felt like we were able to kind of set a new pathway there. And I appreciate your openness to allowing us that opportunity. So, and just wanted to congratulate you on your promotion. And then to the new captain, we met briefly, but also wanted to welcome you and to say, really looking forward to working with you on the many challenges that we have. So thank you so much for that opportunity to say those few words.
Well, thank you so much. And, it filters down to, the relationship I have with both of you in the North Precinct. The officers feel it too. So they're very thankful for the good relationship they have mainly with the two of you in the North Precinct. And it shows in their morale. It shows in, they're wanting to stay in Seattle. So the impact that you guys are having on the morale of the police officers and, working with us and supporting them, it's huge. So really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now let's see what questions we've got just out here that are for the North Precinct. So, okay. And you can feel free to pitch in here, Captain Davison, if you see something. Did you have any follow-up comments from Ann Davison's presentation or?
No, I thought she did it really well. A really good presentation that kind of described her job and kind of the relationship. And I do know one of the things that was brought up in her presentation was kind of the SOTA order and the things that were happening there, and that she's the first or the second cog or the second relay. And I totally agree with that. And we're currently working on, I know that our vice unit as well as our training unit and our legal unit are currently working on some training for the officers so that they can use the new law and try to make an impact with it. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I think an area that we've been following up on several times in the last several months and comes up every time. Can you give us an update on what's going on out in the Sandpoint, Magnuson Park area, Mercy Housing? Have there been any additional developments? Are things calming down, or where do we stand with that area?
I don't have the information on that, so that's
Yeah.
one that I'll punt to.
Yeah.
Generally, you don't punt up, you punt down, but I think she has a broader understanding than I will at this time. So
Yeah. You know, it appears things have calmed down. I think there's different reasons for that, you know, maybe weather and arrests and um, things like that. But one of the things that we just recently did about a month ago, myself and Megan Westfall met with the top leaders at Mercy Housing, all the way up to the top. There were about, I think, 4 or 5 of them and us, and had a great communication with them to where we opened up communication with them about their residents. And some of the responses was, well, you know, we come to work in the morning and we find out SWAT was there, but we don't know what happened. So we were able to designate someone to make sure that when anything happens down there with any of their tenants and they get arrested by the police, or we're down there looking for them, that there's open communication. So they have specific information on individuals that we arrest, so they can proceed with evictions, because they expressed how hard it was to evict people when they don't have specific information. So we've opened up that communication with them, and one of my officers is going to meet with them regularly as well. And then Megan Westfall will also keep them updated with stuff like that. So that was very it was very good, and we want to also Captain Davison meet with the other housing right next door there as well in the future, to kind of have a same meeting to keep communication open with them as well. Solid ground.
That's great.
Yeah.
I know you've mentioned earlier this fall that one of the plans is to have a plan for the summer, because part of what was occurring at Magnuson Park was very loud and big, raucous parties. And you mentioned we have quite a few new folks tonight. Could you just give a quick overview of that plan? You said it's similar to what you do at Shill Show. What would that look like a little bit?
Yeah. Do you want me to? I'll go ahead. So yeah, so I that was one of the things I sat down with Captain Davison and with Chief Kibbe, who's the chief of patrol, to ensure that they were all updated, because I made a promise to the community that I was going to put in place a system, kind of like we did at Golden Gardens used to be off the hook, kind of like Magnuson Park was this year. And so we work with parks, and we get a kind of like a little contract where we work with them as a team. They assist in patrolling the park, and they also fund a couple of the officer positions. So we would have a emphasis there every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, starting the week of May 31st. And that would go through the whole summer. And Parks has agreed to that. And so we just need to meet with them and get that solidified. And Chief Kibbe and Captain Davison are on board, and they're going to ensure that gets done. And Chief Kibbe is also in agreement, and they will be getting that done. So
Great.
that is going to happen.
Okay, thank you. That's a great overview.
Yeah.
Let's see, someone is saying, now we heard earlier from a couple participants that they thought Aurora was actually much better. This comment, however, sees something differently. Please talk to us about Aurora rampant gang and sex trafficking related gun violence in particular, such as the recent Saturday at noon shooting that was resolved with a car chase to the middle of the Greenwood neighborhood, 83rd and Dayton, penetrating the neighborhoods.
I don't have information on that at that time. That'd be something I'd have to research regarding the specific incident. Sorry.
That's-
Yeah, are you talking about the one on the video where the guy pinned the car in and shot at it? That
Yeah,
one?
she
Yeah.
is, I see heads being shaken, yes.
Yes, so that was a really good video, and through that video, we were able to identify the subject, and so we do have internal flyers out for our officers to locate them. So that's an active investigation that it's just a matter of time before we find them.
Okay.
And I think a second part to that question is about what we're doing. We still have 1 2-officer car. We call it our NORA 91 car on days and nights. And that car is assigned with 2 officers just for that Aurora strip from about 85th to 145th. And their job for that whole time is to proactively be there on that part of Aurora and try to stop cars and observe and respond and be a deterrent. So that is still going on, and I don't see that ending. I see that continuing to at least I don't see a reason to ever really stop that on Aurora. Also, it's going to start in, I think, about February. The CCTVs are almost ready to launch in February up on Aurora. And it sounds like the private people that want to do hook up to our real-time crime center and to the camera thing, that might even start before then. So we got the funding for the real-time crime center, and it's going forward. So that's going to happen in the near future. And I was told February.
Okay, great. Sounds like we should get an update on that next month too.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's gonna be it's gonna be a game changer up there.
Good. Someone else asked, in referring to the approach you've taken with Mercy Housing and such at Sandpoint, she asked, can we have the same approach at other public housing complexes, especially along Aurora? Essentially going out to meeting with the management and reinforcing, the connection.
Yes, we do that. I don't always talk about it, but our project officers and Megan Westfall, they meet with different housing like that on a regular basis. And then our crime prevention officers also go out there and work with them on and try to assist them and securing their place better, so people aren't hanging out. And so that's an ongoing thing that we do. Yes.
Okay. Another comment about the Sandpoint Magnuson Park. Yvonne says there are still gang members at the boat launch. Recently, she was contacted by someone who walks his dog there. 2 people shot guns as they approached them. Hopefully that person called the police. It doesn't say that.
That's what I was going to say. I hope they, because the precinct is very versed in what is going on down there. My third watch command, or my Captain Davison's third watch commander, is on it, and yeah, they have to be calling those in, because I hadn't heard that. I didn't see that come out as in an SIR. Did you, Captain Davison?
I did not, and that's something that would definitely be reported.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, and our patrols are still, they know what's going on down there. So whenever they're free, they're told to go down there and patrol. I had the mobile.
What day did that come out? Because looks like Yvonne is saying that police showed up, so I'd like to look into that. Does anybody have what day that took place and roughly the time?
Yvonne has been tracking all of that and has been doing a great job. I suspect she can pop that into her comments here. So, and again, thank you, Yvonne. You've done a great job on that. I really appreciate it. Okay, one other thing, and she, by the way, says thank you for speaking with Mercy Housing Management. Yes, his partner called the police and multiple units showed up, so that's good.
Mm.
And she'd like the incident number. Let's see, there was another question that came in the comments from Jennifer. When looking at the heat maps, I think what Ann was showing, is there anything being done with that information? Increased police presence, the increase in violence and open drug use. Sales in Lake City has spiked dramatically in the last 6 months at 125th and 145th are major corridors for crime. She's wondering if there's a known reason for the spike and what's being done to restore safety and what the local community can do. I love that last part. I always like it when everybody wants to pitch in and help too. It's not just a police issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Go ahead. Would you like to take it?
Well,
If not-
I can start because I know Kathy Moore and I talked about like an area there. There's so many factors down there as to why it's increased. I know there was a strip kind of near a day community center, kind of a hidden little street where people were hanging out and, you know, doing drugs, and there were tents. So we got, with Kathy Moore's assistance, we got people down there right away, our art team, to clean out the tents and to stop people. And they just like did an emphasis down there for like a whole week and really cleaned it out. So that is what we're doing from our end, patrolling it more. You know, the drug loitering law, drug use, open air drug use, we're still using that, but we still have to defer, you know, the first offense. So I know there's some talk about maybe tweaking that in the future and making it to where we don't have to, you know, defer the first time. That's in the mix, and that would really assist the police if we could, you know, book them on the first offense and get them out of the area rather than divert to where, right? Because Ann Davison's completely correct in that when we do diversion, they just say yes, you know, we'll do it, and then, you know, they're in the wind. I like her presentation and on what they were doing, where they have to go right from the jail to it, because, you know, addicts, they're never going to get assistance. They're always going to go back to the street and start using it again because they don't want to get withdrawals. I mean, so they got to have that quick turnaround. So
Yeah.
yeah, but crime has increased there. I know we had the homicide there down at you know, Lake City there too. So we're aware of it, and you know, we're patrolling it more and keeping an eye on it.
That's great.
Mhm.
And I want to thank Casey, who has stayed on and has been answering questions in the chat. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, Casey. Yeah, I think you're capturing a lot of the questions as I'm scrolling through. Now, I know this may be putting you on the spot, Captain Davison, but I think your operations person is also around, and I wonder, could we be so bold as to add him, ask him to unmute? And can I highlight him? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's exactly why I had him hop on, because there's been a lot of change at the North Precinct with me taking over as captain. We have a new ops lieutenant, that's Garth Green. I'll let him introduce himself here in just a second. We have a new second watch lieutenant, and there's a acting lieutenant on first watch that's new as well. So not a new officer or anything like that, but or new to the department, but new in the role that they have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lieutenant Hayes.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me well?
Yes.
Hey, good evening. First of all, thank you for inviting me to this meeting. I've been a lieutenant. I've been with Seattle Police Department for about 15 years. 12 of them were up north. So I have a vested interest in the North Precinct. I consider it my home. It's where I started. I did 2 years as a sergeant downtown at West Precinct, and I did 1 year as a lieutenant down in the South Precinct. And you know, I'm honored to be back at the North Precinct and you know, enter back into this community up here, and you know, and work under Captain Davison, and you know, under the mentorship of Chief Agard. You know, just thank you for being here.
Great.
Yeah, I want to say that I handpicked Lieutenant Haynes. He didn't just happen to fall into North Precinct. I actively recruited him, and The way I recruit people is I get people of good character that are compassionate and kind, and you can teach them the job, but you can't, change someone's character. And he's an outstanding person, and just got him there, and then I moved. So we got a great line of command at the precinct. We got all the right people in the spots. So I'm really happy to have you, Lieutenant Haynes.
That's great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, another question from Henry. Can SPD refer people to the Crisis Response Center in Kirkland? That's been written about in the paper recently.
Yeah, I don't know if that is a possibility. Do you know?
I saw Jane, my favorite CSO, is on this call. Do you know by any chance, Jane? Did she just log off?
I'm getting there.
Oh,
there
yeah,
we go.
unmute. Yep.
Yeah. Are we talking about the crisis connection in Kirkland?
I think that would be what she's referring to. Yes.
And who's asking the question?
I don't know. I lost it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it was Henry from Councilmember Moore's office.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I was just down in Ballard today, and there were about 10 tents that were leaving. Had been on private property. And I was talking with Andrea Suarez on the phone with We Heart Seattle, and she refers a lot of people to Kirkland Connections. You could look it up. It's pretty amazing. You can go there. There's a drop off there. Let me look it up and I'll put it in the chat.
That's great.
But they have like leather recliners where you can sit and you can, they'll give you, they'll help you rehab. You can stay there for 24 hours. She was telling me all about it. She's referred a lot of people there. They have 16 beds that are, I believe, secured somehow, and another 16 beds that are more open. I just started reading about it, but it's really a great place. But I offered that to a couple people that nobody was interested in it. But I'll put it in the chat. I believe it's called Kirkland Connections.
I think you'll also find that there's been a recent Seattle Times article about that and about the new behavioral health unit at UW at the North Campus. So I think that there's been if people want to learn more, you can check out the Seattle Times for some pretty good articles about new options.
Yeah, it's called Connections Kirkland. It's connectionshs.com. But yeah, as a community service officer, if somebody wanted to go there, we would get permission and I would take somebody there.
That's great.
But we just don't have a lot of people that are interested in making that decision, at least at the time I'm talking to them. But yeah, it is supposed to be quite the place.
Good. Thank you,
Jane.
I'm going to mute myself again.
Good. Okay, thank you, Jane. All right, we only have about 2 minutes left. I think at this point I've scrolled up and down the questions. We've gotten most of them. Any last comments from either of you?
Well, first off, thank you, Chief. Big shoes to fill. I do wear size 15, so I don't know if that helps.
You do have really large feet. It was very noticeable.
She actually made a comment. She was walking me around the precinct and showing me different things, and she goes, "Geez, you have huge feet."
Yeah, I was like, wow. Okay.
But I don't think that I can fill the shoes that you do, but I'll do the best that I can. And I got to pick on you a little bit because you still have bars and you need your stars.
Yeah, well, I gotta get that, that promotion from the chief first, the official promotion, yeah.
Well, I'm honored to be here, and I really want to do the best that I possibly can for everybody in the North Precinct as well as the city of Seattle, and do the best I can to help make an impact. I mean, I'm not going to make too much of an impact as a captain. I'm more of a guide and a kind of a person that helps patrol get to where they need to go. They're the ones that actually make the impact. I'm the one that hopefully gets the feedback and gets the direction and gets them focused in the right direction. But I personally am other than contacts and connections, I'm there for my officers, hoping that they can make the impact that you all need. So.
Well, thank you very much. And again, we agree, you have big shoes to fill. And one of the things that's meant a lot to people in the North Seattle area is just the fact that we've had someone we could connect to. And when something's going on, we can reach out and find out, is there something we can do? Can we connect people? Who can we refer someone to? So we'd love to have that kind of relationship with you. And we're looking forward to working with you, and we're hoping for a peaceful, quiet, and dull 2025. Can we wish that?
Agreed. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Katie, I'm going to be giving the new chief your contact information. I'm giving him the important stakeholders in the North Precinct. So you're included in that. So he'll probably reach out, after he gets settled to meet you.
Great. Well, the North Precinct Advisory Council has been around for a long time, and we hope to continue to show up and try to make the community better. So thank you both very much. And I'm going to let you folks go. I'm going to say we are at time. Oh, we're 1 minute over. Oh my gosh, I didn't quite meet the But thank you all very much for joining us. Please join us in February for Lauren Davis, State Representative. We will be glad to see you then. If the board will stay on, that would be great. And I wish the rest of you a good evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.